Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Time Tracker by eBillity webinar. My name is Vicky, and I'll be hosting today's webinar. Today's session will run for approximately half an hour, with time for questions at the end. Questions can be submitted at any time in the question box on the webinar's control panel. Our presenter today is Joe Day. Joe has been the VP of Business Development at eBillity for a little over 3 years and is located in Phoenix, Arizona. He previously came from Panviva, which is an Australian software company focusing on business process guidance, and AMCS, a US tech company built around reporting and analytics. I'll now hand you over to Joe.
Thank you, Vicky. Hi, everybody. This is Joe. It's a pleasure to speak to you today, and I appreciate you taking time to have a chat with us. Today, we are here to talk a bit about the relationship between Time Tracker by eBillity and Reckon. So with that being said, I hope you're all doing well and you're healthy, and we'll get started. Time Tracker, as Vicky alluded to, and many of you probably already know, is a US tech company. We are located in New Jersey. I'm on the West Coast. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, but we are a global company. So we have about 12,000 customers, and they are located all over the world, between really North America, Europe, and Australia. We have a bit in South Africa and the Far East as well. Ultimately, at the core of our product is time tracking. So most of our clientele are coming to us because they're looking for a very nice, clean, simple way to track time and productivity. The reality of it is, though, there are a number of other feature sets that are available not only in our product and are being requested on a frequent basis, and those include scheduling, moving that time tracking data, into a payroll system, as well as invoicing and billing. And our product is unique because it actually does all of the above. So whether you are in need of a simple time tracker for payroll purposes, you're looking for something that has the ability to raise invoices and bill, or you want to, kind of look at more of the job costing and productivity perspective, Time Tracker by eBillity actually can perform all of those functions for you. So as I said, we are a US company. We've been around since about 2011. Kind of our claim to fame, if you will, was that we were really the first time tracking platform that was a cloud platform and very accessible on a mobile device. Now, of course, you can use us on any device, any time zone, any currency, again, global. It also works offline. So even if you're using the app on any device and you happen to lose connectivity to Wi-Fi or cellular, you can continue using it. And whenever you reconnect, it'll move the data to the cloud. And the product does come in a number of versions, which I'll get to in just a second, around the kind of time tracking, billing, and productivity elements that I mentioned earlier. It is nice because we have a number of integrations, and when it comes to Reckon, we integrate with Reckon Desktop as well as Reckon Hosted, and so we'll talk about that a bit as well. But it is an automated connection. It's an API connection, so it's quite easy to connect the two and to allow that data to flow in bidirectionally or in two directions, across the two platforms that you're using. And we do have a number of other integrations that are kind of in the range of payroll solutions, Concur Expense, as well as Zapier, which is kind of a middleware solution. The account types are interesting because, again, if you're looking for something basic, straightforward, then you would use what I call version 1, which is basic time tracker. If you need raising the invoice and the billing, you're looking for something that also tracks projects, and you want really robust reporting, then you would go to version 2, which is the plus billing model. And then the third version for really legal or solicitors, as well as engineering and architectural firms, is that version 3, which we call plus legal. And the pricing, of course, does vary a bit, and the feature sets kind of change a bit when you go from version 1 to 2 to 3. So what Time Tracker does, let's get into some of the features so you have at least a general sense of how it might be able to help your customers run their businesses. So in the end, whether you're an accountant and you're looking at this as a recommendation for one of your clients or a business, or you're the actual end user, the actual business that would be using it, the interesting thing about our product is that we actually have two primary configurations. The first configuration is around a very classic perspective of what a lot of people call a time card, which some people call punch in and out, or some people call clocking in and out. But a time card is quite nice when you have, let's say, a location or even multiple locations where people are going in and out of that facility. So a manufacturing plant, a warehouse, a hotel, a restaurant, a brewery, something of that nature. So people can clock in and out, they can take breaks, they can, of course, do that against even specific clients and projects that they like. Configuration 2 is built more around having various methodologies of getting time into the database or the system because of the type of business you might be. So in that configuration 2, we have mobile timers, which are kind of multi-timers, as I refer to them here. They're very easy to use on a phone or a tablet. You can have many of them going at the same time against, for example, client 1, project A, client 2, project C, and so on. So those mobile timers are very handy. We also have a weekly visual timesheet, which is nice if, number one, you are more visual and you want to see kind of an expanded view of a week or 2 weeks or a month against those various clients, projects, and activities and the time entries in the notes. Or if you happen to maybe have supervisors or managers that need to create time entries for a team. So that calendar view or that weekly timesheet can be quite nice in that situation. And within that configuration 2, we also have a classic timesheet, which has more of the kind of the billable, is it billable? Should it be on an invoice? What's the billable rate? Those types of elements. So again, they're quite different. Configuration 1 is a time card. Configuration 2 has these varying methodologies of getting time in the system. And we also even have voice entry using Amazon and Google apps and hardware products. So you can voice a time entry. In addition, we have geolocation and geofencing. So if you require location services, we do have those. You can turn them on or off. So if for any reason you do not want them on, it's quite simple to just turn them off. If you want them on, you can turn them on not for the whole group, or you can turn them on for specific individuals that may be, for example, you might have a group of consultants or salespeople that are traveling, in which case you might want to be able to validate where the time entry took place by location. Not only validate it for your clients, maybe from a billing perspective and proof that they were actually there, but also from a safety perspective, knowing where your employees or contractors are at any given point. Now, the difference between geolocation and geofencing is that, for any of you that may not be as familiar with it, geolocation is really about the location where the time entry is taking place, plus the route in which you drove or you took. So it will actually ping the mobile device and the chip about every 10 minutes to see where they are from point A to B to C to D. Whereas geofencing is really about a perimeter. So I have a client at 123 Main Street, and I want to see and make sure that everybody stays within that particular location or address. So that's the difference between geolocation and geofencing. And again, the product, all 3 versions of the product have that. In addition, there is a built-in approval process, which you can turn on or off. And there is a permissioning hierarchy as well, so that if you need to set different roles, maybe a master admin, for example, that can see everything, a user or an employee that has more limited visibility, maybe only the clients and projects that they work on actually appear. And then maybe somewhere in between, like a supervisor or a manager that has 8 or 10 different people under their charge, and so you can give them access to those people as well as themselves. So that's important to know, because that applies to a lot of different types of organizations. For any of you that are interested in calendar-related time entries from Microsoft Outlook, whether it's the actual desktop Outlook or Online 365, as well as G Suite or Google Calendar, we actually do have add-ons that allow you to take those appointments and meetings directly from your calendar, excuse me, into Time Tracker. From Microsoft, we have an actual free plugin. And for G Suite or Google, we actually have a Chrome extension that allows you to do it. And of course, in this current day and age where, we have the reality of a lot of people that are working remotely from home, it's quite nice because, a lot of people are doing GoToMeetings, WebExes, Zoom meetings, and so on. And so now you can take all those appointments and meetings, if it's relevant, you can move them directly in. Earlier in the discussion, I mentioned Zapier as an integration. And let me just very briefly tell you about that and how that could help you or your customers. So Zapier is a middleware platform that we integrate with. It integrates with well over 1,000 software tools. And so in essence, without creating an integration, you can go attach one software platform to another using Zapier and creating what's called a Zap, or in other words, a rule. You might look at it kind of like an applet. So if this happens, then this happens. And so Zapier allows you to very easily connect us to a bunch of other software tools and platforms that don't have integrations, because it wouldn't be very cost effective to create that many API integrations. So this is a nice way to be able to do that. I already mentioned Amazon and Google apps and hardware for voice entries, and that's actually becoming more and more commonly used. A couple of years ago, it was limited. Maybe 10% of our clientele actually use that type of feature for voice entry, but now you find that it's more like in the 35% range. People are getting a bit more comfortable with the tech around it. They're acquiring those apps and hardware devices. We also, because of the global pandemic, we have added and are working on features around touchless time entry. We already have some questions that are built into the front end. So if you need to ask employees a question about their health or anything, whether it's a fill in the blank or yes or no or a multiple choice question, we already have that. And we already have a kiosk that hangs on a wall that has facial recognition available for time entry as well. The only thing we're still waiting to add is the voice activation of it to the kiosk. We have voice activation through Amazon and Google products, but we're waiting and completing the development on the voice recognition for a device like a tablet hanging on a wall to wake the device up, so then it can automatically take the image of your face to match it up through facial recognition with an image that's in the library. So that is something that we're quite far into already and should be completed, we're hoping, by the end of September, early October. And again, of course, I've mentioned this to some extent, but it works on any device, and that, of course, includes Apple devices, Android devices, any phone, any tablet, as well as whether you're using a Windows machine, laptop or computer, or a Mac. As a matter of fact, right now I'm on a Mac. So it works on both, and it works in any browser as well. Now, remote teams, I know that, again, we've touched on this, and I'm sure a lot of you think about this often, given the fact that so many people are working remotely at this point. And the change that's happening really is the fact that in the kind of pre-COVID world, a lot of people were working in a synchronous manner. They were working in teams, at a location together. Now we are asynchronous in many cases, where we are alone at home and we are trying to get the same duties completed, but in a much different environment, of course. So the ability to track what people are doing, what clients and projects have what activities and time associated with them, looking at the productivity and the analytics, being able to remotely review that time and those activities and approve it, being able to make changes like edit time entries, reject them and have some changes made, pulling detailed reporting. All those things are becoming, they were important before, but we hear all the time that they are becoming more and more important. So we try to take that into account as we're adding features and looking at how we can help our customers, and in turn, you or your customers kind of fulfill their needs around the feature sets that are the most meaningful to them. But I think the most important factor within time tracking and approval workflows is that it needs to be simple, right? The app needs to be accessible and easy to use for the end user. The manager or supervisor or admin, as it may be, needs to be able to do it quickly and easily. And so our entire career as a company, we have very much focused on that ability of transitioning features from a full-blown desktop app into the capabilities that are required simplistically on a mobile platform. And I'm proud to say that we've been able to do that. Certainly no software tool is perfect. We all can improve, but I think the nice thing is it's easy to use, approvals are easy, and in the end, the permissioning hierarchy will give everybody the access and visibility that the team at the organization believes they should, in fact, have. Now, I mentioned that we have the billing version, which is that version 2, which has the raising of an invoice or billing. So there's various billing templates which you can have for different kinds of clients or specific clients. There's a ton of different billable rates available for both contractors and employees. There are projects as well as just clients and activities. So you have an additional data point, and you can rename the data points. And it has very robust reporting. So that billing version, has all these other, features, if you will. But by being able to create those customized invoices quickly, it's literally a 4-step process, very simple. You can actually, in this version, track for time and expense. So you can, include the time entries, but also all the expenses as well as the receipt images. So you can do that natively in our product in this version. But you also have the ability, if you happen to have the need for moving expenses from SAP Concur, we integrate with them as well, and we're the only time tracker that does that. So you can actually move those expense entries from Concur into Time Tracker, or you can track them natively in our product. Either way, you can bring time and expense together if it's relevant for your use case. Once you, of course, create those invoices, you can send them off. There is a Stripe credit card integration in the invoice, so it can be paid directly. So that's very nice. Or you could just, of course, download it and send it through email if you prefer to do it outside of our system. And we also have kind of some different features around version 3 with the Plus Legal that are, again, more geared towards solicitors and law firms, engineering firms and architects. I won't get into that today, but just know that it's there and available. Now, as far as Reckon and Time Tracker and how we work together, many of you might have questions about the integration itself. So I'm not going to waste any time, kind of waiting to get to that. I'm just going to go on to my next slide and show you the actual sync table itself. So as you can tell, I would say it's a relatively traditional accounting integration. Of course, you have things like clients or customers, projects, service items, expense types, classes, and so on. And as you go down the list, you can see the arrows showing the directionality of where the data is going. So is it coming to Time Tracker from Reckon? Is it going from us to Reckon? Or is it going in 2 directions? And, that's important. And by the way, this is accessible on our website, which is at eBillity.com. You can actually go into our integration section. You can click on all the integrations, any one of them, including Reckon, and those sync tables plus the feature sets and kind of the value proposition around how it can help run a business are all within those pages. And of course, if anybody needs any more detail, they can always let me know. Pricing. So I don't want to get too deep into this because I'm sure you guys can all see this hopefully, but ultimately it's a tiered pricing model. So first of all, it's based on user seats. So if you have 10 employees and 2 admins, you would need 12 seats. So it's all user-based pricing. It's also based on the version of the product. So the basic time tracker versus the plus billing version or version 2 versus the plus legal or version 3. And you can see there's tiers that are based on the volume, the number of users, 1 to 50, 51 to 150, and so on. And the more user seats you have, the more the price goes down. So it's really quite simple. Now this is all based on monthly pricing, but over to the right, you can see that if you choose to pay annually, that you get an additional 20% off of the discounts already represented on the left for monthly. So the nice thing is that you can, you can switch back and forth. In other words, you can start monthly, get comfortable to ensure that it's the platform that does what you need, and then you can always go annual later, at which point it'll be prorated for the remainder of that year. You can also add or get rid of user seats whenever you want. So if your company goes from 20 employees to 25, you can add 5 seats. If you go from 20 to 15, you can get rid of 5 seats, but still retain the data in the system from those 5 users. So you can go up and down as much as you like as well. And just kind of a side note, we are GDPR compliant, which is a European standard for privacy and confidentiality, but we applied that standard to all of our customers globally. And we are a product that's actually hosted on Amazon, better known as AWS. So it is 128-bit encrypted, and it is secure. And in the end, this is your data. So if for any reason you want a backup of the data or you want to take it with you, if you ever decide to, change your business model, of course you can do that because it's your data. There is a free trial. And so in the beginning, many people start out with that trial, which is very common within the software per user seat model. You would pick an account type. If you want any integrations, you can use those during your trial as well. And then, of course, you can add as many users as you want to the trial, whether it's 1 user or 100, it makes no difference. And you can try it. And of course, if you need tech support, help, training, any of that during the trial or after the trial when you're active, it's all included. So all of the maintenance of the product, the upgrades, the training, the connection to the various integrations, all of that customer success and support activities included in the pricing. So it is there. And the trial, of course, is there so you can kind of kick the tires and get a sense of how you feel about it. And we can work with you to ensure that you get to where you need to be. And then once you're ready, then you can transition to an active account if it's appropriate. Just so you guys know that if you are a bookkeeper or an accountant, that we do have an advisor program, which is basically a free account for you, plus 20% commissions based on the revenue produced by the clients that are using it that you recommended. You also can give them a 10% discount on top of the commissions as well as the free account that you have. And then there's a number of other features that you can see as far as marketing assets and collateral, badges and things that you can use with tracking links in your email and the assets that you provide to your clients and so on. And of course, you're still going to get the unlimited support, tech help, and implementation help that you or your customers need if you are in fact a bookkeeping or accounting firm. So that being said, I want to try to wrap that up in about 20 or 25 minutes, and I think we're about there. So let me stop and turn it back over to Vicky, and we'll see if anyone has any questions.
Thanks, Joe. We do have a couple of questions. So I'll just start off with the first one. Do you have technicians based in Australia to assist with setting this up and helping with troubleshooting issues?
Yes, that's a great question. So let me just tell you how our support and our tech as well as general support are set up. So we base it on time zone. So we have a team in New Jersey, more for North America. We have some folks in Germany and South America that cross over between Europe, South America, Africa, and some other portions of the world. And we have a team in the Philippines that typically, along with South America, but usually the Philippines handles Australia. We also actually have staff, employees that live in Australia as well, and actually our head of marketing lives in Sydney.
Thank you. The next question, we're an electrical business and have an invoice accruing with labour being added over several weeks. Can your app add labour or materials to an already open invoice in Reckon?
Yes, it can. So in essence, whenever we think about labor and materials, of course, every business is a little bit different, and so we probably want to chat about it offline and kind of get a better sense. But the answer generally is yes, because in our system, you of course have the time entries, but we also have those various billable rates for invoicing that are typically associated with labor for any number of different types of tasks or activities, and so on. But in addition, materials in our system, we consider that really as an expense, not so much that it's being reimbursed for an employee, but quite the opposite, that you want to include it on an invoice. So as you have materials, and I'll just use kind of a generic example. In this case, it's an electrical company, but if I was a construction company, a general contractor, and I had plumbers, electricians, HVAC, and other different buckets of employees performing different services, I would create those materials and those labor costs within the system, and I would add them into the invoice. So if you already had an existing invoice, you could add them. If you're creating a new invoice, of course, you can add them as well. So either way, but I think based on the question, I think you should be fine.
Thank you. And we've had quite a few questions asking if the costing is in Australian or US dollars.
Yeah, so the pricing that I showed on screen, and by the way, this is on our website as well, that was actually in Australian dollars. But what I would tell people to do is, just so you can see it live on the web, you can go to eBillity.com. One of the tabs in the top middle of the screen is pricing, and if you click on that, it'll take you to the pricing page. And on the left side, there's a drop down that allows you to change the currency, and you can change it to Australian dollars, and you'll see the pricing mirrors what I showed on screen.
Thank you. And as your app tracks where our employees are whilst they are clocked on, are there ways that they can get around this, i.e. turning their data off, turning their locations off, therefore compromising the data collection? How often does it track the data, either distance or frequency?
Yes, also a great question. So of course, we do hear this quite a bit, frankly, globally. A lot of people wondering about, whether or not an individual employee can, in essence, game the system, right? The tracking is on, and validating where the time entries actually took place or occurred, but can they get around that? So the reality of it is, of course, most people won't do that and wouldn't do that, right? They're going to leave their location services on, and the app is on their device. But if the app is closed, whether it's open or closed, the location services will work. Now, that being said, if the employee actually went in and turned, all of their location services off within their configuration panel on their device, it is conceivable, it's possible that they could actually turn it off so their location could not be found. I would tell you that I think in the last 3 years, I've heard of something like that happening on 2 occasions, where, it was caught, the situation was caught and addressed. But yes, is it possible that somebody could do that? Yes, they could. Is it likely? I would say very unlikely.
Thank you. And how would they get a demonstration to see how it works for all users, i.e. employees, managers, payroll?
Yeah, so are you talking about a client using Time Tracker that needs training for employees, or are you talking about kind of a demo just to get an idea of how it works so they can make a decision?
A demo.
In either case, a demo. Okay. Yeah, really in either case. But for a demo, you know, obviously my contact information was on the last slide, but you can do it a couple of ways. One is you can just take my email and you know, contact me and we'll get it set up for you. Another way would be to go in and create a free trial, and there is an actual drop down on the support menu within the product that gives you a live concierge, which is a 30-minute call for somebody to answer your questions and to go through a demo if you'd like. So that's another way to do it. You know, so I would tell you it just depends on if you want it to be more kind of high level and rudimentary, or if you want something a bit more detailed, kind of around the family of Reckon. You're probably better off coming to me and my team. But either way, you can get a demo going online and scheduling it or contacting me.
Thank you, Joe. That's the end of the questions today.
Great. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Joe, for the great presentation today, and thank you all for attending. If you do have any further questions, please email them at training@reckon.com, and I can pass those on to Joe. And also email us if you'd like a copy of today's webinar. Thank you all and have a lovely day.
Same to you as well.